It started like a rumor that shouldn't have been true, a courtroom suddenly feeling more like a movie premiere. Flashbulbs, whispers, and Keith Urban walking in calm but dangerous, holding a single phone like a loaded weapon. They said that phone carried proof no one was meant to see, text messages, secret recordings, and screenshots that could turn Nashville upside down. The air inside the courtroom was heavy. Reporters leaned forward. Lawyers froze. Even Nicole Kidman, sitting quietly in the back row, didn't move an inch. And then Keith's attorney laid the phone on the desk. The entire room seemed to stop breathing. What came next wasn't rumor or gossip. It was evidence. Dozens of messages allegedly showing that country newcomer Maggie Baugh had fabricated an entire pregnancy. From falsified lab results to staged photos and fake sonograms, this wasn't scandal anymore. It was a digital crime scene. Just months earlier, Maggie had gone viral crying on Instagram Live, claiming Keith had betrayed her. The internet crowned her a victim overnight. She said he'd promised love, then vanished when she needed him most. Fans flooded her comments with heart emojis and "men are trash" hashtags. But behind that sympathy was a trap, one that would soon spring shut, because when Keith finally broke his silence, he didn't do it with emotion. He did it with proof. Screenshots, audio clips, and timestamps that told an entirely different story. The same internet that once called him a heartless liar suddenly turned on Maggie. Within hours, online detectives picked apart her posts frame by frame, spotting Photoshop errors, mismatched hospital wristbands, and reused stock photos. Even Reddit threads accused her of copying pregnancy pictures from Pinterest. Outside, the story exploded. Keith Urban exposes fake pregnancy scheme, screamed one headline. Nicole Kidman breaks silence in court, said another. Inside the courtroom, Keith remained calm, but his eyes told a different story, the exhaustion of a man who had been publicly humiliated and finally had his day to speak. Then the first recording played. Maggie's voice filled the courtroom, trembling, furious, emotional. He thinks he can just walk away? He'll regret it. I'll make him pay. You could hear a collective gasp. The judge frowned. Reporters typed frantically. Nicole just looked straight ahead, her expression carved in stone. By afternoon, the courthouse steps were swarmed by cameras. Keith and Nicole exited hand in hand, no smiles, no statements, just silence. But it wasn't defeat. It was power. The kind of silence that means, we've said enough. The next morning, the real shock came. A forensic team confirmed the DNA documents Maggie submitted were fake. The timestamps didn't match the lab's working hours, and the fonts were wrong. One lawyer even joked she must have used Microsoft Word to fake the results. The courtroom laughed, but the damage was irreversible. Then came the email evidence. Prosecutors revealed Maggie had sent messages under a fake name, Hannah Fields, posing as a lab assistant to demand hush money from Keith's team. Translation: she'd been trying to blackmail him. Nicole leaned over to Keith, whispered something, and witnesses swore she smiled for the first time in weeks. Outside, social media went wild. Hashtag MaggieGate, hashtag Urban Redemption, hashtag fake baby files. The internet couldn't look away. TikTok creators reenacted courtroom moments like scenes from a soap opera. One clip even got millions of views just showing Keith adjusting his tie mid-trial, but then came the moment that changed everything. Keith's lawyer called the next witness, Nicole Kidman. Gasps rippled through the room as she walked to the stand in a black tailored suit, every step measured. When she finally spoke, her voice was calm but sharp enough to cut glass. Our work depends on truth, she said. This wasn't just a lie, it was an attack on trust. Her statement broke the internet within minutes. Networks replayed it nonstop. Analysts called it the most composed destruction of a lie ever delivered. Even her critics admitted it was surgical. By the time she stepped down, Maggie's defense looked shattered, desperate. Maggie's lawyer tried to twist the narrative. He waved a few printed screenshots, claiming Keith and Maggie had flirted through texts. The gallery gasped again. But Keith's attorney calmly explained those messages came from a public fan hotline, not his private number. The room erupted in murmurs. The spin had failed. When court recessed, Maggie's last thread of credibility snapped. A leaked call surfaced the same night, her voice saying, "If I can't win with truth, I'll win with the story." It was over. Reporters chased her outside. She whispered, no comment, but the internet had already decided. Sponsors dropped her. Radio stations cut her songs from playlists. Meanwhile, Keith's streams soared overnight. His fans called it the comeback of the century. Nicole didn't gloat. She simply walked beside him through the chaos, head high, untouchable. That day, the world didn't just watch a scandal. It watched a power shift, one quiet, steady, and undeniable. And it was only the beginning. The next hearing felt different. The crowd was bigger, the whispers louder, and the cameras weren't even trying to be discreet anymore. Everyone could sense it, something bigger was coming. When Maggie Baugh entered the courtroom that morning, the sparkle that once defined her was gone. Oversized sunglasses hid her swollen eyes, and every step looked heavier than the last. She wasn't walking into court anymore. She was walking into her own ending. Keith sat quietly beside his lawyers, the same composure he'd worn for days. But something in his posture had changed. It wasn't anger anymore, it was exhaustion. The kind that comes when you've been fighting to prove the truth in a world addicted to lies. Nicole Kidman, calm as ever, sat behind him again, that same unreadable gaze fixed on the floor, and then came the twist no one expected. The prosecution dropped another bombshell, a digital forensics report proving that the files Maggie uploaded to her private cloud had been manually altered. Metadata showed edits made at 2:43 a.m., hours after the supposed lab had already closed. One of the timestamps even came from a different time zone. The courtroom buzzed. Even Maggie's own lawyer looked pale, but the worst part wasn't the timestamps, it was the alias. Under a fake name, Hannah Fields, Maggie had sent a series of emails to Keith's representatives, demanding a confidential settlement to protect both parties. In other words, hush money. The jury murmured. Nicole glanced up for the first time, eyes locked on Maggie, and the room went still. Outside, social media turned feral. TikTok creators reenacted every leak, YouTubers posted body language analyses, and hashtags like #MaggieGate, #UrbanRedemption, and #CountryChaos started trending again. Every update became a headline. Every expression turned into a meme. One viral comment summed it up best. Maggie didn't just fake a pregnancy, she birthed her own downfall. Then the prosecution called its surprise witness, a forensic expert who revealed something even more explosive. Money transfers traced from Maggie's account to a small private clinic in Texas. The amount, $5,000. The description, consulting fee. The recipient? The same technician whose name appeared on the falsified DNA report. The crowd gasped. Someone audibly whispered, "Oh my God." The judge had to call for silence. Reporters sprinted out of the room mid-testimony just to post updates. By the time court recessed, news outlets were already calling it the most dramatic trial in country music history. But the chaos didn't stop there. Later that week, federal investigators got involved after discovering those payments had crossed state lines, transforming the case from a celebrity scandal into a potential fraud and wire-tampering investigation. Suddenly, this wasn't tabloid territory anymore. It was federal. Maggie's team panicked. They released a shaky video statement filmed in dim light, claiming she was being framed by powerful Hollywood figures trying to destroy her truth. But the internet didn't buy it. Half the comments called her brave. The other half called her delusional. And then, like clockwork, a new leak dropped, an audio clip allegedly featuring Maggie's former manager confessing that she had faked messages to pressure Keith into a collaboration deal. She wanted his name on her album, the voice said. When he refused, she created chaos. The public snapped. Whatever sympathy she had left evaporated overnight. Major radio stations quietly scrubbed her songs from playlists. Sponsors vanished. And her tour? Cancelled under unforeseen circumstances. Meanwhile, Keith and Nicole's silence became its own language. They didn't grant interviews, didn't post statements. They didn't need to. Every headline already screamed what they couldn't say aloud, vindicated. Yet, behind the victory, something shifted. Keith's wedding ring was gone. Observers noticed it instantly. When reporters shouted questions, he just said, "I'm done protecting people who don't tell the truth," before stepping into his car. That single line detonated across the internet. Who was he talking about? Fans wondered. Was it Maggie, or Nicole? The tabloids went feral. Rumors spread that buried inside those phone records Keith had turned over to the court were messages linking the chaos to a Hollywood PR firm allegedly tied to Nicole's production company. Words like damage control, narrative spin, and reputation management started surfacing in gossip threads. Some claimed Nicole's team had tried to manage the fallout long before the trial began, offering quiet payouts to keep details hidden. Others said Keith found out, and that was the real reason behind his silence breaking. Still, none of it was confirmed. The only truth anyone had came from that same courtroom, and even that truth felt fractured. When the next session opened, the judge ordered all sides to submit their full phone logs. Hours later, Nicole's attorneys filed a motion to delay the hearing indefinitely. The gallery whispered. Maggie's team smirked. But Keith? He snapped. Slamming his hand on the table, he said, "No more hiding." Those words hung heavy in the air. Moments later, his lawyer handed a sealed folder directly to the judge, unredacted messages, straight from Keith's own phone. Reporters claimed you could feel the temperature in the room drop. Whatever was in those files didn't just concern Maggie. It reached higher. Names, payments, and contracts that hinted at something larger, a machine designed to control stories before they even broke. That night, a leak hit the internet, a snippet of courtroom audio where someone whispered, "You weren't supposed to say that." Fans swore it was Maggie's voice. Others insisted it was someone from Nicole's team. Either way, the mystery deepened. The entire industry began buzzing with the same question: who was really behind this? By morning, it wasn't just gossip blogs talking, major outlets were covering it. The FBI confirmed they were reviewing financial records tied to the falsified lab payments. Overnight, the case evolved from a tabloid scandal to a cautionary tale about power, silence, and the price of fame, and in the middle of it all, Keith Urban stood on the courthouse steps, finally free of the burden that had crushed him for months. No statement. No drama. Just quiet defiance. Nicole appeared minutes later, escorted by her legal team, face unreadable behind dark glasses. Cameras flashed. Neither looked at the other. For a story born out of lies, it ended in a kind of symmetry: everyone exposed, everyone changed. Maggie vanished from public view, her accounts deactivated. Keith's music shot back to the top of streaming charts, but the smile fans loved was gone. And Nicole? She was scheduled to testify again next week, in a closed-door session that could either end everything or ignite a new war entirely, because one thing's for sure, this wasn't over. Not by a long shot. Behind every silence, there's a story. And behind every story, there's someone waiting to tell it.